Good afternoon, mind, body, spirit, and business tribers. We are here today on the palatial estate of the This is the Day event planning over in Quorum, owned by Tanya DeBose. We're overlooking a beautiful turquoise pool surrounded by all this lush greenery.
Absolutely.
And life. And we were just inspired to share with you today for our second Sister Soul Sit Down. And we want to impart some nuggets of wisdom and just share with you. As we learn, we share. So as we've learned some things, you know, we always share it with you. Real time, real talk, real action. I'm Nicole Christian.
I'm Edna J. White, and this is Sister Soul
Sit Down.
So I wanted to start today about judgment. We've gotten a lot of emails and a lot of comments and a lot of calls about judgment and Judgment Day. And we wanted to kind of clarify a couple of things about judgment. So we started with Webster's Dictionary. So we'll start from there. And that, what was the definition for that?
The definition of judgment in the Merriam-Webster's Dictionary is a reasonable application of practical matters in life, using wisdom and applying your experiences. So when you use the statement, you know, that the end of the world is coming, that, you know, Judgment Day is coming, for many of us, Judgment Day or judgment is already here. It's a call to action. It's time for you to wake up.
Right. But I think it's good to know that there's two differences. There's a judgment, when you're judgmental, and then there's a Judgment Day. So we need to make
there's a distinction between
those two,
judgment and Judgment Day.
Yeah. So judgment is basically applying something to practical matters of life. That's it. Just totally using wisdom, using life experiences, and making a judgment call, not from someone else's point of view, but from your own point of view. Now, Judgment Day, for me, and you can kind of elaborate. I remember when I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old, and I was hanging out in Patchogue, and we used to walk around Patchogue, and there's this one man, he used to always have this big sign on him, and he'd walk around, he looked like Jesus, and it was the first time me and my brother ever saw him. And we looked at him, he had the sign, Judgment Day is coming, get right. We were afraid. We ran home,
scared,
literally, and asked our mother, like, Judgment Day could be tomorrow. Like
what are we doing?
What are we doing? What do we have to do? And my mother's like, where is this guy? So she came down, and then he literally looked like Jesus.
Long, scraggly beard.
What we've always known as to be Jesus. Literally, she's like looking at the sign. She goes, I don't think that's today. That was my mother. That's exactly, I don't think that's today. And that was her answer to me. So I said, okay. The second time I ran into Judgment Day is when Bellport Grucci's blew up. And I was on,
I don't know if you remember
Station
that day.
Road, yes. Station Road and Montauk Highway.
Yep.
Chilling at Weaver's Deli.
5-ton explosion.
Chilling. We're having a great time. And I was like 15, 16 years old.
It was in the 80s.
Blew up. And all the ash was coming down, and everyone screaming.
Everybody ran to church because they said that the fire and brimstone was raining down on sinners.
Yes,
I remember that.
Yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
And I remember judgment specifically. I will never forget it. I had just decided to get saved. I was 10 or 11. I was going to get baptized. And in the Baptist church, you have to go through the Baptist Training Union. And it was a 6-week intensive course to understand what the Baptist theology was, what was baptism, the Holy Spirit, sin, the gift of the Holy Spirit. And I'll never forget Reverend Powell, pastor at the time, he gave such a vivid explanation of Judgment Day. And I was riveted about, you know, the book of life being open, the sky parting, if you were here and you would remain, or you would be caught up in the air. And I said, I want to be caught up. I remember saying, I want to be caught up. I don't want to be here in 1,000 years of damnation.
Me too.
I want to be here. I was like 9. And so for me, judgment instill fear in me.
That's right.
There was no peace.
No.
I didn't feel a peacefulness approaching the end of the world or whatever it may be. So this has always been a topic that Edna and I have consistently talked about. This is one of those things that
shows up in every religion.
It shows up in every religion. And
really
we have
does.
Muslim followers, we have Sikh followers, we have some paganism, we have Christians, we have people that, but in every religion there's this thread about Judgment Day, and we're not making fun or in any way minimizing the importance of any religious path. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is, as we learn and study, we want to share with you so that you can have peace and understanding, or a different understanding. So judgment for me was always something fearful.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, everything that had to do with Judgment Day. I remember one of the pastors, the first ladies in our church said that when you impart or you're a part of a religion or you're a part of this religion, you have to walk a tightrope.
Yeah.
Now, how do you live life
On a tightrope?
And that kind of made me fearful, and everything that I was doing, no matter what it was outside the confines of what I was told and what I read, I was fearful. And I was always immobilized. That's how I felt.
Almost paralyzed.
I was almost paralyzed. I didn't want to even move because I was afraid that I was going to veer off into one side or another, and there's nothing to hold me up.
There's nothing to catch you
Nothing.
if you fall off the
So
tightrope.
I was always afraid of Judgment Day, but Judgment Day to me is a culmination of your entire life, and it was great that you said that the Book of Life opens. We are a book of life.
We are. The first page
So it
is
opens.
written. Yeah, that's why it says we're fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
So the story starts right at the beginning.
Right.
So the Book of Life, for example, my Book of Life started October 11th, 1970 something.
Right.
And so the judgment for me is with everything that the universe, that infinite divine wisdom God has given me, what am I applying it to? What am I doing to be a light in the world, to be salt of the earth? All of these metaphors we hear about that we're supposed to be. All these things are supposed to impart wisdom, peace, healing, understanding, compassion. What am I doing with those gifts that I have? That's my judgment day. That when that realization clicks, what's the turn? When do I now turn the page or look at the scales? This is what I got. Now what am I doing with it? That's the scales. It's not you. This image of you waiting to the end.
To get a reward.
To get a reward at the end, or in fear of that point. Because that's how I was programmed to think. I had fear about, am I gonna make it in? Am I gonna be in that number? Am I gonna be in that number? That's what they used to say. So all of those things, the Book of Life is your Book of Life.
It is. It's what you write on your pages.
Yes. It's the unfolding. It's the application and the understanding. That's the Judgment Day. Now let's get to Judgment.
Judgment now.
Now that's different.
Yeah, that's different because what I've seen in, let's just take a regular situation. Like, I don't like your dress. That's a judgment. But the dress may be nice for you. When I was encountering judgment, because I pretty much like everything about anybody, that's what they do. I was always like that from a child. But when you start becoming judgmental, it's something that is kind of introduced to you. It's an idea, and they introduce that to you.
And then it becomes a standard.
And then it becomes
it's
an
idea.
And then it becomes an agreement.
Then it's an agreement in the back of your mind that that's how it has to be.
Has to be. And judging for me, if you're going to judge, be careful because they're judging you. So the same vibration you're putting out, somebody's doing the same thing to you. And you're doing this, they're doing this. It's all this pushing and pulling and pushing. And when life is supposed to be very easy.
Yeah. Well,
relationships are supposed to be easy.
Yeah, love is patient and kind, and it's high thoughts. It's supposed to be beautiful.
It is.
And our lives really are a mirror of what's inside.
Correct.
It's what's in our mind. So our relationships, our profession, our private, intimate moments with ourselves or with others really is a reflection of what's inside. And when
Mhm.
I was judging, when I was ingrained in
Right.
judgment like thinking,
Mhm.
I had very judgmental friends,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of pressure.
Right.
I felt pressured to be a certain way.
And then it's a constant struggle with
It
yourself.
was. It
It's
was.
totally all the time you're struggling, and then you're not really true to yourself, because you're not. If you can't be true to yourself, you definitely can't be true to those friends. So are they really your friends?
Well, that's number one.
Are they really?
And we had our first Sister Soul sit down
Mhm.
was about friendships and giving,
Yeah.
if you remember. So, what's in your life is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. And to me, judgment is an idea that then becomes a standard, and then it becomes an agreement, and it becomes your perception.
Right.
And that's why we have the situation that we have now in America with this polarized thought patterns,
Yes.
where everyone is ingrained in one way of thinking because that was introduced to them. Then it became a standard that they lived by, and then that became their perception of the way everything was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And that's something that all of the prophets, as it were, that are honored in most religions, they always talk about and have always exemplified divine guidance, not using your own personal
Right.
I, always having the divine acknowledgement of the spirit in another person,
Right.
no matter what, whether
And
they're a
it's never in
leper,
you.
a woman
Right.
with issue of blood,
Mhm.
whoever it was, you're supposed to recognize their divine innate ability and who they are.
Mhm.
That means you can't judge.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't love and judge.
No.
It's impossible.
It doesn't work together.
No.
Absolutely.
It's
not.
one or the other.
Mhm.
It's one or the other. So we wanted to share that, with you today and leave you with our R cubed. Where do you go from here? So we have an R cubed application, and the first R is the root, and the root is why you do what you do. So whenever you're looking at your life, you start with the root, why you do what you do. The second is the result. That's the present state where you live. And then the third R is your recommendation. That's your real action that you take based on the other two.
Right.
So just explain a little bit more about the root, why you do what you do, and result, present state.
Okay, since we're talking about judgment,
Judgment.
why do I judge another person? Why am I? Is it something that somebody told me? Is it something that I lived? Is it something I experienced? Why am I doing that? Those are questions that you ask yourself. You don't go ask another person, because they're just going to tell you their idea. The real reason why God really have us here is because we are to form our own paths. We're not supposed to group with anybody. We're supposed to form our own paths and root out or meet out the purpose in our lives. That's the main reason why that we are here. The trouble with finding our purpose, because we hear this all the time.
Yes.
Can't find my purpose, because you're too busy picking up everybody else's purpose or everybody's idea of what you should be and not your own. And that's the biggest problem. And that's what creates judgment, because now, well, since Michael, maybe, let's use Michael. Since Michael said, this is the way I'm supposed to be for some particular reason, maybe I should take that on. Maybe that'll get me here. And we take that on.
It's supposed to work.
It's supposed to work.
It's supposed to work.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that becomes judgment. Now you see everyone in that eye. And for example, myself, when I was married, yes, I was married twice, divorced twice. But when I was married, the church had a great influence on me. And I remember a great woman. Her name was Sister Whitty in our church.
Mother Whitty.
Yes, and I remember talking to her about what everyone was saying to me about my marriage, and she said, "Come over to my house and have tea." So I knew I was in trouble.
Church mother. Yeah. Church.
I knew I was in trouble.
Wise woman.
Went to a house, sat at home with her and her husband. She said, "Baby, I want to tell you this. Everyone can't be in your relationship, even your pastor." This is what she said. Now, she was a great evangelist. She traveled all over.
Yes,
and she
preach,
said,
teach.
people are not to be in your relationship, because how they were together is not the same way that you're together. And you two are two different people than the other two that you're trying to mimic, because that's what it is, mimicking. Because again, that becomes judgment.
It is.
And then who do you impose that judgment on? Who did I do? I impose it on my husband.
And you and your spouse.
Yeah, I impose that. Oh no, you don't act like sister so and so and so and so. You don't act like them.
You're supposed
so
to
you're excommunicated. So I had a great part in that, in my marriage unfolding the way it did, and I take that and I impart that to you, that you can't have everybody in your life involved in what's going on with you. That's what I should say, because that's your own journey. And on your journey, there's so many roads. So if you get married, there's two of you walking, instead of one, and then you have to walk alone.
Well, they tell you you're supposed to be one then.
Right. But you're one. You're one in most things. But that's a different subject.
We'll get into that later. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
That's a whole other animal.
Again, and that's perception.
Yes,
you know,
it's a whole other
and it's
animal.
all interpretation. And God bless them, all these teachers, because they did it from their hearts.
Right.
But we have to now figure out
Right,
what it really all means. And so the root, why you do what you do, is your perception, your training, your programming. Then you're in the present state, what you're doing now.
Right.
And I always say to, we have clients and people that we counsel and talk with, we always say, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
When they go on, they talk about their issues, we offer a solution, and they either accept it or don't. We say, okay, well, how's it working for you?
Yeah.
Are you happy? Because I don't believe that being unhappy is the route to spirituality.
No.
That is not true. Being unhappy is not what makes you more spiritual.
And that's why you have the
Suffering,
results.
the results, which leads to the recommendation.
Right.
So what's the action now? So if I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then I figure out what this present state is, I'm either happy or I'm not. I'm either in fear or I'm in love.
Right.
That's the two emotional spectrums. Everything else is a part of that. So I'm either in love or I'm in fear. If I'm in fear, okay, now what is the action?
Right.
What do I do? What's the steps that I take?
Now you have to move towards love. And how is that possible?
Yep.
How is that possible?
Oh my goodness.
There's so many
towards
steps
love.
to it. Moving towards love.
Moving
And
towards
the first one that I learned years ago is the scripture that says, come back to your first love. Come back to your first love. And what's the first love? Self.
That's correct.
You can't give what you don't have. At the end of the day,
To that.
you have to move forward to loving yourself. So wake up in the morning and stop saying, oh, I'm fat today. And all of those agreements, and those are still judgment calls. You're judging on yourself yet again.
Yes.
So you want to get rid of that. So you move towards love. Hating yourself, it really is. Fear breeds hate. Hate pushes you farther and farther away from who you're supposed to be in your purpose.
Yes.
And that's why you're not fruitful in what you're doing. You're not doing what God wants you to do.
No.
At any time.
We're here to love.
Yeah, we're here to love. That's
the shortest script. One of the shortest scriptures besides Jesus left is God is love.
Yeah, God is.
And that's what I wake up every morning saying. God is love.
And I
am love. When I say that changes the whole dynamic, because now God is not out there.
No,
God is in me.
Right.
I am a part of God.
Right.
And that's not something we necessarily were taught, and it wasn't necessarily malicious.
Right.
Again, judgment is about applying wisdom, and everyone used the wisdom of their day for their present circumstances. Our present circumstances today are totally different. We've got to apply wisdom in a totally different way. So I hope you take what we've shown you from our hearts in a very pure and vulnerable space, not to tell you what to do, not to even judge you, because you got to walk this road on your own.
Absolutely.
You have to write the chapters of your own book. But we believe when we started Mind, Body, Spirit, and Business that we were real time, real talk, real action. So when we learn, we share, and then we act.
That's right. So this is it for us on Sister Soul Sit Down. Hope to see you next time.
Peace. Stay in love.